Hello and welcome to News Now. Nigerian troops have intercepted and killed many Boko Haram terrorists who were trying to escape the onslaught on the Sambisa forest in northeast Nigeria. Now that's according to the acting director, Army Public Relations Colonel Sani Usman, who said the insurgents were decisively dealt with while trying to escape through a community called Pulka. He said many of the terrorists were killed during the encounter while one of them was captured alive. Usman said soldiers also recovered a general-purpose machine gun, several rounds of 7.62 mm ammunition, 45 rifle magazines, 36 hand grenades, and quite a number of shilka gun empty shells. Nigeria's Vice President, Professor Yomi Osinbajo, has said that the federal government is committed to the rehabilitation, reconstruction and recovery of losses suffered by people of the northeast of the country owing to the Boko Haram insurgency. Professor Osinbajo gave the assurance when he received a delegation of the Northeast Caucus of the National Assembly at the presidential villa in Abuja. He said he was delighted by the visit and pledged his personal commitment to ensure that the people of the Northeast recovered from the trauma of terrorism and insurgency. According to him, the President Muhammadu Buhari administration is ready to work with the delegation from the National Assembly as committed partners in the recovery of the Northeast to bring succor to the people. Nigeria's Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, has insisted that the country's military forces will defeat the Boko Haram insurgents before the expiration of the December deadline given to it by President Muhammadu Buhari. The information minister, who just returned from a tour of some parts of the northeast of the country, told newsmen at a press conference in Abuja that from what he saw during his recent visit to some communities affected by the Boko Haram insurgency in Borno State, he is confident in the military's ability to defeat the insurgents. Now, he said the country's troops have sufficiently degraded the capacity of Boko Haram to launch spectacular attacks and also retaking most of the territory seized by the terrorists.
The military have largely won the war, and I'm confident that by December, the military would have achieved the objective of one, substantially decimating the capacity of the Boko Haram insurgents in a manner that they will be unable henceforth to launch the kind of spectacular attacks they used to launch. I'm confident, and I know for a fact also, that they've been dislodged from their strongholds. They no longer enjoy the kind of structure, organization, and cohesion they used to enjoy. Make no mistake about it, this is not a regular war. This is not a war where we sit down and sign armistice and sign peace and say, from today onwards, there will be no more shooting, from today onwards, there will be no more bombing. No. This is a guerrilla war. This is an insurgency. And what the government is sought to achieve, which I'm confident will achieve, is that by the end of this month, the Boko Haram will not be in a position to hold any territory and say we are operating from this territory. Now, on the issue of whether there will be bombings or there will be attacks on soft targets, there is nowhere in the world that you end this kind of thing overnight. It will taper off gradually. But what the government has set out to do, which they are going to achieve, is to decimate the capacity of Boko Haram.
Now, on the fight against corruption, the information minister said the government would ensure that all those who have looted the treasury of the country would be brought to justice.
Frankly speaking, the dilemma of government is how do we redress past wrongs, injustices, at the same time not violate the rights of the individual. But what I want to assure you, nobody who is responsible for putting this country where we are today, whether by sponsoring Boko Haram or by stealing us blind, will go unpunished, but we shall follow due process.
Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari has agreed to host the Economic Community of West African States and Heads of Governments in December 2015. In a 4-paragraph press release from the presidency, President Buhari said that vital issues bordering on security and the economy would be discussed at the summit. He said that it was time to seek the cooperation of the sub-region in fighting the scourge of terrorism and the illegal activities of pirates in the Gulf of Guinea, which he says currently undermines the West African economy. Now, toll gates on Nigeria's federal highways are on their way back 11 years after they were dismantled. Nigeria's Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, says the federal government will reintroduce highway tolling to raise additional funds to finance road infrastructure and ensure efficient road maintenance. Fashola said this Tuesday in Abuja during his first news conference since he was appointed minister. He said adequate funding of the nation's road infrastructure would generate job opportunities and reduce unemployment in the country. Tolling was scrapped by former President Olusegun Obasanjo after his administration imposed fuel tax. Since then, attempts to restart the policy had failed. However, Fashola said as a short-term strategy, the ministry would start with quick completion of ongoing interstate roads in order to facilitate connectivity before working on those that bear heavy traffic. Now, we sought the reaction of Nigeria's former Minister of Works, Senator Adeseye Ogunlewe, on the plans to reintroduce tolling on federal highways. And here's what he had to say.
The National Assembly must provide a framework, legal framework, for other options which are already in the books in the Ministry of Works that they have to holistically look at and then provide a solution with a legal framework. And there are so many options as they do all over the world. One, we have toll gates. But toll gates should not be operated by government because the money, what happened before, the money was going to the federation account. But it will not be available for construction or maintenance of road because it has to go back to the budget. I want to avoid budgetary provision for the construction of roads. So it's better to have a public-private partnership where you dedicate a company to maintain the road from the tolls collected or construct new ones from tolls collected. That is one option.
Nigeria President Muhammadu Buhari has joined the bandwagon of those who have been critical of the recent governorship elections conducted by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. The president has taken issues with the credibility of the governorship elections which took place in both Kogi and Bayelsa states recently, where some violations were witnessed. A statement issued by the president's spokesperson, Garba Shehu, quoted the president as disapproving of the attitude displayed by some politicians and electorates, describing it as unhelpful electoral attitudes in the political arena across the country. The president made the observation while receiving newly elected members of the Inter-Party Advisory Council's IPAC Executive Committee in the Presidential Villa, Abuja. Buhari told members of IPAC that it was deplorable that the electorates were denied access to election materials despite the interest made by Nigerians towards the introduction of the card readers and permanent voter cards during the last presidential election. He called on Nigerians to join hands and support basic measures to ensure free, fair and credible elections in the country, including the use of card readers and permanent voter cards. The Transition Monitoring Group, TMG, has said that it observed that the 2015 Bayelsa State governorship election was characterized by widespread irregularities bordering on violence, harassment and intimidation throughout the process. The group's position was made known by its chairman, Comrade Ibrahim Zikirulai, in a press conference in Abuja. Zikirulai expressed concern that despite the widely observed presence of security agents at the polling units, these agents were most unprofessional in the discharge of their duties.
The intimidation and the rest were widespread. It's just that the degree of harassment and intimidation was more in one area than the others. However, on this issue of security conduct, I think part of TMG plan after the election is to take up some of those issues with INEC. and the security, because we pointed out before Kogi election and the Bayelsa State election, we made mention about build-up of arms in Ofu local government in Kogi State, and then in southern Ijo, Ekeremo, Nembe, and many others. And we call on the security to do everything possible to ensure that the right atmosphere is produced for election. The media were very supportive in propagating that message. But unfortunately, the security did not take these issues very serious. Even though we were getting feedback from the security that they are on top of the situation, what turns out in Kogi during the Kogi election and that of Bayelsa shows clearly that either the security were compromised or they feel that they dismiss our claim.
President Muhammadu Buhari has proposed a sum of 500 billion naira as budget for social welfare programs in the 2016 budget. This is contained in a letter to the Senate read out by its president, Bukola Saraki, during its plenary on Tuesday. The letter indicated that the social programs would be coordinated with state governments and would include school feeding initiatives, conditional cash transfer to the most vulnerable, and post-National Youth Service Corps grants. The World Bank has advised President Muhammadu Buhari to urgently, if he is seriously considering the removal of subsidy, to urgently act, actually. The advice was given by the lead economist of the World Bank, John Litwack, at the launch of the bank's third Nigeria Economic Report in Abuja on Tuesday. Litwack said that although fuel subsidy appeared to have very modest benefits for the majority of Nigerians, the cost implications were quite high, also adding that if the government really meant to take a decision on the issue of fuel subsidy removal, the best time to act would be now that global oil price is at its lowest level. He said the annual spending on fuel subsidy in the country accounted for about 1/4 of all budgetary spending, arguing that this is significantly greater than the entire federal capital budget and greater than all federal spending on education and public health combined. President Buhari is yet to come out clear on whether his government would continue with the subsidy payment or remove it. The Nigerian Senate has asked the government to review the objectives of Nigeria's foreign policy with a view to ensuring the relationship with other countries produce benefits to Nigeria. Now, the resolution of the Senate on Tuesday followed a motion by Senator Stella Odua, PDP, Anambra North. Odua argued that since independence in 1960, Nigeria's foreign policy objectives created by Tafawa Balewa have remained unchanged. She said Nigeria had made pivotal contributions to ending civil war, colonialism, external domination, oppressive minority rule, and apartheid in various African countries. But despite these contributions, Nigerians who reside abroad are treated with disdain. Accordingly, the Senate asked the federal government to reassess the foreign policy objectives in a hostile, unstable, and competitive global environment which operates on the principle of survival of the fittest, to ensure that Nigerian investors, businessmen are accorded the right of first refusal, especially in those countries where Nigeria fought tirelessly for their liberation, emancipation, freedom, peace, and security. We'll take a short break here, and News Now will be right back.
Hello, you're welcome. You're watching the Funny White Man Show, which is the biggest, the brightest, and the most entertaining show in Africa.
Funny white man, but this way you talk, it's too much.
Yes.
Give me 5,000 man, that's you. It's too much. So you get it like, Messi move along the street. Yeah, Messi like there, I'm going girl. You know, my own people. Actually, yeah, fine, it's fun. I enjoy it, and I'm one of those very few.
I'm forever taking it personal. I will listen 160 million Nigerians are corrupt. How? My brother, I'm looking for you.
Yeah, but it's a growth, and this is the time to build business. I know the pitfalls, I know what to do and what not to do. But there are months where you get business and months.
You know how we do, how we tell you. We do the way they do.
Hello, you welcome. You watching Trending Matters on the Funny White Man Show. Of course, we will bring you trending issues just to entertain and tickle your fancy.
Welcome back. Oil prices rebounded in early trading on Wednesday after a report that U.S. oil production continued to decline last month. World benchmark Brent crude was trading at $40.87 a barrel, up 6 cents from the previous day, with support coming from the overnight report showing that U.S. oil output fell further in the latest month, continue to decline through the third quarter of next year. Now, crude oil production in November was an estimated 9.2 million barrels per day and has declined from a peak of 9.6 million barrels per day in April. The EIA forecasts in its periodic short-term outlook report that oil production this year would average 9.3 million barrels per day and fall to 8.8 million barrels per day next year. French police have identified a third attacker who blew himself up at the Bataclan during the Paris attacks, French media report. The AFP news agency and Le Parisien newspaper identified him as Fouad Mohamed Agad, 23, from Strasbourg, citing police sources. They reported that he had traveled to Syria as part of a group of radicalized youth in late 2013. Several of the group, but not the Bataclan bomber, were later arrested upon returning to France, Le Parisien said. Two others who blew themselves up at the music venue were identified as Frenchman Omar Ismail Mustafa, 29, and Sami Amimo, 28. The Dream Team 6 of Nigeria will on Wednesday tackle host Senegal for a sport at one of Africa's three representatives at next year's Olympics in Rio. Coach Samson Siasia has made a late change to his squad, with Eyo Ebong replacing Taiwo Awoniyi in the attack, with Gospel Atawa coming on for Augustine Dingba. The winner of the tie will clinch a place in the final of the African Under-23 Cup of Nations, while also securing an automatic berth to Rio 2016. Now, the match kicks off at 4 p.m. Nigerian time. English giants Manchester United have been knocked out of the UEFA Champions League after falling to a 3-2 defeat at Wolfsburg. The 20-time English champions needed to avoid defeat in their final group match away in Germany, while also hoping that Russian side CSKA Moscow do them a favor by holding PSV to a draw at least. However, events took a turn for the worse as the Manchester side twice gave away goals immediately after scoring one themselves. Defeat in Germany now means that they will compete in the Europa League next year. Elsewhere, current World Footballer of the Year Cristiano Ronaldo broke another Champions League record by becoming the first player to score 11 goals in the group stage. The Portuguese now has 84 goals in 120 appearances in Europe's top club competition. Quite a record if you ask me. That's it in news now. Thank you very much for watching. Continue to stay tuned to TV360.